4 American soldiers are dead because of an illegal and unjustifiable war Donald Trump is waging. And instead of talking about them, he's talking about his ballroom and suggesting he should award himself the Medal of Honor. In a rambling, confused, almost disturbing speech that he abruptly walked away from while reporters shouted questions after him, the President of the United States showed us a man in serious cognitive decline, and a man who doesn't seem to care about any of us in the slightest. Donald Trump is waging war right now because he doesn't want us talking about his protection of alleged pedophiles, his disastrous economy, or any of the many other weaknesses of his administration. But it's also because he simply doesn't care. He's willing to sacrifice American lives as a distraction from headlines he hates or to do a favor for Bibi Netanyahu. That's what Donald Trump is doing right now. And he made it incredibly clear when he began his speech by talking about a ballroom, the latest obsession of a man who only cares about one thing: himself.
See that nice drape? When that comes down right now, you see a very, very deep hole. But in about a year and a half from now, you're going to see a very, very beautiful building. And there's your entrance to it right there. In fact, it looks so nice, I think I'll save money on the doors, because it can't get more beautiful than that. I picked those drapes in my first term. I always like gold, but I think we can save a lot of money. I just saved curtains. But, and it'll be spectacular. It'll be the most beautiful ballroom. I believe it because I built many a ballroom. I believe it's going to be the most beautiful ballroom anywhere in the world. And when you hear all that hammering out there, you know why the First Lady is not thrilled exactly. She said, will the pile drivers ever stop? You know, they go from 6 in the morning till 11:30 in the evening. Can you imagine? Here? You know what? To me, that's a beautiful sound. She doesn't like it. I love it. You know what? To me, other than here, because we're donating it, not a penny to the taxpayer. It'll be under budget, ahead of schedule. It'll be $400 million or less. Most people say $400 million or more. No, it'll be less. But when I hear that sound, that beautiful sound behind me, it means money, so I like it. But my wife isn't thrilled. She said, this is getting crazy. I said, don't worry about it. We'll be all finished up in a few months. But now for the reason that we're gathered this morning to recognize the...
Well, quite frankly, it's a beautiful ballroom. We love the ballroom. We're going to take a look at the ballroom, and you're saying, people are dead. I just don't care. I really don't. I can't bring myself to care. Did I mention the ballroom? That was basically the speech. That's what we got from Donald Trump. And he practically reenacted the meme from Shrek, Lord Farquaad saying, some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make. That's the energy he brought at the start of this illegal war he launched. Because Donald Trump doesn't care. He would sacrifice as many lives as necessary to distract from the Epstein files and everything else closing in on him. This is an illegal Epstein distraction operation, and that's exactly how it feels. And on top of that, it's wildly unpopular. It's also making everything worse. Does Donald Trump really think rising oil prices up 13, 15, 20% and still climbing are going to help him sell the economy as a success? I don't know. It feels like he's chasing a short-term distraction while quietly laying the groundwork for long-term power consolidation. Just 2 days ago, he floated the idea that people with anti-American ideologies shouldn't be allowed to vote. Does that mean people who oppose this illegitimate and damaging war? Who knows? What we do know is that Donald Trump clearly sees himself as, quite honestly, the greatest guy in the room. He was talking about it right before he abruptly walked away, once again displaying just how unwell he appears. We're going to look at that image of his neck. And we're going to talk about why he seems to think he deserves to award himself the Medal of Honor.
Great. It's a great honor. There's no greater. I tried for myself. I've tried numerous times to get one by myself. I keep getting shut down. They say, you can't do it, sir. Bad protocol. Very bad. I would say the worst. But I'm only kidding. You don't have to say I'm only kidding. Otherwise, the press will come out with it, which they actually did once. Donald Trump wants a Congressional Medal of Honor, but he's been shut down. But now you are brave, amazing people.
It doesn't surprise me that Donald Trump wants to give himself an award he didn't earn and doesn't deserve. That's basically the Trump presidency in a nutshell. Foreign leaders know he's easily flattered, easily manipulated, and that if they shower him with praise or hand him a medal, he might reward them in return. That part isn't shocking. What is surprising is that no one in this administration of yes men and yes women has already rushed to make it happen. I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen someone like Kristi Noem scrambling to protect her job by saying, why don't we just give it to him? Maybe then he'll forget about everything else. It's almost shocking that it hasn't happened yet, although unfortunately there's still plenty of time left in this presidency. But what Donald Trump clearly didn't have time for today were reporters asking legitimate questions about what critics are calling an illegitimate war. Instead of answering, he simply walked away, and in that moment projected confusion and detachment that raised even more concerns about his state of mind.
Journalist Aaron Rupar posted this photo writing, "Wow, this is new. Trump has a significant rash-like injury on his neck today in addition to his disfigured and discolored hand." It's all very gross. If you can look at his neck there by his collar, it just looks like his skin is falling off.
So you've got an obviously dazed, confused, glassy-eyed Trump kind of swaying, looking around, clearly unsure of what's happening, walking straight past a wall of reporters shouting questions. Those questions could have been about the fact that Donald Trump's first Justice Department shut down a state investigation into an Epstein property in New Mexico. They could have been about how his first DOJ buried the Epstein files and what his second term is doing now. They could have been about his war with Iran, the economic fallout, why Pete Hegseth keeps giving shifting explanations, or whether he cares if more American soldiers die. But he just walks past. Either he doesn't know what's happening, or he doesn't care. And that's the Trump presidency in a nutshell. It's always one of two things. Either he doesn't care, or he refuses to answer, and in his mind, that's his right. They believe they're entitled to ignore the public, entitled to ignore Congress, entitled to do whatever they want. And a big part of that, as we've discussed so often, is the strategy of doing it all out in the open. Trump seems to believe that being caught secretly doing something illegal is worse than doing it brazenly in public. The mainstream press has this obsession with chasing shadows, digging for hidden scandals, while sometimes ignoring what's happening right in front of them. When there were speculative stories about President Biden's supposed secret decline, they were eager to amplify it. But when it's Donald Trump's very public cognitive struggles, when it's visible, undeniable, happening in plain sight, suddenly the urgency fades. They pivot. They distract. And as more major media companies fall under the influence of right-wing billionaires who have invested in Trump's political survival, that pattern isn't surprising. The media grows softer. They let him deflect. They let him shuffle away from legitimate questions about his health and his decision-making. And that's where it really starts. Donald Trump has become more erratic than ever. He's openly described the presidency as something that keeps him alive. So why wouldn't he look for ways to extend it? Last year, in remarks about Volodymyr Zelensky, he mused about how wars complicate elections, about how you can't really have elections during a war. He left it hanging there. The implication didn't need clarification. This is the same man who has floated restricting voting eligibility, who has talked about passports, and who gets to validate them alongside figures like Marco Rubio, the same man who previously pushed efforts to redraw districts to his advantage. It doesn't take a leap to see how instability can be politically useful to someone who benefits from chaos. And yet new polling suggests this may be one of the most unpopular actions of his presidency. A majority of Americans disapprove. A large majority. That's why it's more important than ever that Democrats don't just debate process. Yes, the constitutional process matters. Executive overreach has been a through line of Trump's presidency. But beyond process are real lives, real families, real consequences. You've heard Republican Congressman Mike Lawler argue that Democrats must fund the Department of Homeland Security immediately, that failing to do so would endanger Americans. But if the country is less safe right now, isn't that because of the instability created by this conflict? That's the logical question. And that's exactly the kind of argument Democrats should be making clearly and forcefully. It's also what Congressman Jason Crow had to say this morning, and it's worth taking a closer look at that clip.
Curious where the support is for this resolution and for a vote.
Well, we're pushing it really hard because that's what Americans deserve. I've seen this movie before. We all have, right? And how this goes is elites and leaders in Washington talk tough and bang the war drums. And then what happens is working class kids like me and the people that I fought with in Iraq and Afghanistan actually have to get into planes and helicopters and pick up rifles and do it. Right. So I've had it with that cycle, that endless cycle of non-accountability. I mean, look, Friday night, Donald Trump filmed this tough video where he talked about war and the costs of war and how hard it's going to be and how we're going to lose troops. Then he literally went behind the curtain and hosted $1 million a plate dinner dance party at Mar-a-Lago. That tells you everything you need to know.
Let's bring in right now to the conversation staff writer for The Atlantic, Frank Foer. Frank, I'm going to ask your opinion on what's happening in Iran, but I know you have a question first for the congressman.
Congressman, during the Afghanistan withdrawal, you were extraordinarily eloquent in talking about the obligations that we had to our allies in Afghanistan. President Trump, over the course of the last month, has made certain commitments to the Iranian people. He said that if they go into the street, we would be there to help them. What's the right way for us to think about our obligations to the Iranians who President Trump has encouraged to take all of these risks on behalf of his rhetoric?
Well, for me, the analysis begins as what is our obligation to Americans, right? Well, what are we doing to help and protect American people? That's number one.
More than just talking about process, and again, I understand its validity and importance, what really matters is this. Donald Trump, just as he has always literally harmed poor Americans and working Americans with massive giveaways and tax cuts or any number of other policies, is happy to see working class kids die in a war we never should have started. Also, Donald Trump can distract the media from talking about him being a pedophile, hanging out with pedophiles, and covering up for other pedophiles. That's his administration. And we're going to address it because the MAGA-owned press certainly won't. And if you want to support this even while we're taking a little break, that's fine. We're still here. As always, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting, everyone. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, we'll see you soon.